Let's talk some hoops, and it's time for Thunder Cover with NewsOK.com and the Oklahomans' Darnell Mayberry. Darnell, how you doing, man?
Good. How you guys?
Man, we're doing well. Russell Westbrook, it appears via Vine, he's off of crutches and feeling well. Just maybe an update on Russ and where he's at with his rehab, and just kind of anything you've heard or if you've had a chance to talk with him.
Yeah, for those who don't know, he posted a short video on one of those social networking sites. Threw his crutches or threw one crutch in a pool and shot a basketball into a basket in a pool basket, not a real basket. So he had some fun with it, said he's back, and now he's going to start working out, do a little bit more serious workouts now that he can move around and he's mobile again. So, again, according to the timeline, he's right ahead of schedule, or right on schedule.
Any worries that this messes with his confidence a little bit? A guy that had never missed a game, injury-free for his whole career, nothing major. He's had bumps and nicks and stuff, but nothing that ever forced him to miss time. You know, with the driving, slashing, borderline, almost out-of-control style of play he has, you think this will be in the back of his mind as a point guard, a knee injury?
Do you know who we're talking about? Russell Westbrook? No way this messes with Russell Westbrook's confidence. That guy is supremely confident, one of the most confident young men I've ever met on or off the court or field. So I don't think this messes with him in any way. I think he's going to come back doing exactly what we have all grown to know him to do, and that's going to be attacking and putting nonstop pressure on defenses. So I think he's going to be just fine.
Darnell, you've been breaking down this draft as we lead up to it. The Oklahoma City Thunder got multiple picks in the first round, then one at the very top of that second round. You kind of talked about possibly Victor Oladipo. Do you package some stuff and try to go up and get the guard out of Indiana? Phenomenal year this year. Have you got any feel for what they're looking to do? A lot of people think big, best player available. Do you think that there's somebody that really fits what they do at Oklahoma City that they might go up, that they might covet and go up and get? Are you getting any feel from right there in Oklahoma City on what they might do come draft night?
Well, I think they're going to take a big man. I think conventional wisdom tells you that they'll take a big man just because that seems to be it doesn't seem to be, it is the most pressing need. When you look at Kendrick Perkins regressing this season, it seems to be the sort of a wild card question mark. Who knows what you're going to get from him going forward, even though he's shown tremendous growth. And then you only have Daniel Orton behind him. Nick Collison's getting long in the tooth. So, big man, they really need to get someone in here that they can develop and really grow alongside Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. But I really, we've talked about it, guys. I'm scared of the big man in this year's draft. I think they're going to try to take the best one that they feel fits and really just make the most of it. And maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. But I think that's the way that they're leaning.
Saying that, there's not really a big man that really stands out right there for that number 12 spot. What are the chances they trade down?
Trading down is something that it's an idea that I wrote about last week, and it's one that I like. I get your guys' take on it. If you package the 12th and say the 29th pick, Atlanta is sitting there with two mid-round picks in the first round, 17th and 18th selection. If they can package those, move back 5 spots, and then you get basically 2 shots at getting a serviceable player instead of one, I like that idea, and I think that's something that probably the Thunder should explore, just because whoever you take at 12, there's probably not going to be that much of a difference between the talent at 12 and the talent at 17 and 18.
If there's nobody they're in love with, Darnell, if they look at this kind of the way you have and they haven't fallen in love with any big man that they feel, there's no difference if we get someone at 12, if we get someone at 17 or 18, it's a wash on who we take, then yeah, I think it's a great idea. If they've looked at this, obviously, and they have someone that they covet, and they obviously their decision makers feel this guy fits exactly what we want to do, this is the type of guy, a Thunder organizational type of guy we want to bring in, then I think you pull the trigger. But yeah, if you can get value and you think this is a draft that nobody really jumps out to you, that's a pressing guy that you want to grab, I think you're right on the money. I think there's definitely value in that.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is, of those big men, is Kelly Olynyk that much better than Mason Plumlee? Is Mason Plumlee that much better than Cody Zeller? Is Cody Zeller that much better than Gorgie Jang, Steven Adams. All these guys are sort of all lumped in together, and 5 years from now, you don't know who's going to be the best player out of that group. So if you can trade down, get one of those big men, and get a Dennis Schroeder, a point guard out of Germany, or a Michael Carter-Williams from Syracuse, even though some have him going as high as 8th, or even a Jamal Franklin, who I'm writing about for later today on newsok.com and in tomorrow's Oklahoman. If you can get 2 players of that caliber instead of just one guy who you feel might be equal, I think you got to do it if Atlanta is open to doing it.
Tell us about the big French center. I haven't had a chance to see anything about him. Rudy Gobert, I think I'm saying that name correctly. Is people are talking about he's going to be an athletic big guy that can run the court. Is that what you've seen from him?
Yeah, I mean, he's long, 7'2", kind of frail a little bit. I mean, he weighs almost 240, so it's hard to say that. But he's going to have to get stronger, bulk up, and in terms of holding his position down there and banging with some of the big men in the NBA. But he runs the floor. He can catch lob passes, similar to a guy like Tyson Chandler. So he's incredible in terms of just his athleticism from that standpoint, and he can rebound and block some shots. So. The trade that they missed out on Tyson Chandler, when they rescinded that, I think it was back in 2009, then this is sort of the Tyson Chandler-esque type player that they were looking for. I'm not saying he's Tyson Chandler, but he has some traits that are similar to Tyson Chandler.
Tyson Chandler wasn't Tyson Chandler till later in his career. A lot of people had already said that guy was a bust. And by the way, Darnell, just so you know, don't mention Tyson Chandler in front of Teddy. Every time he hears that name, he cringes on what might have been.
I can't even watch the Knicks play a basketball game without getting upset.
This is Thunder Cover with newsok.com and the Oklahomans. Darnell Mayberry, 13 minutes past the hour. Quick break, we'll be back. It's The Rush, Sports Talk Network. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Monday, June 17th. Little pressure. Put some pressure on the Miami Heat right now. Down 3-2. Woo. Better show up, LeBron. Hanging out today at a great spot. You're listening to the Rush Sports Talk Network. The Jimmy Austin OU Golf Club. It's the 37th U.S. Women's Amateur Public Links Championship going on. The course is in phenomenal shape right now. It's just, I stand out there talking to some guys. Plush, everything is absolutely gorgeous. This is a star-studded event, and they'd like you to come out and enjoy it. They'll be here all week, be going through Saturday, and it's free of charge. You can come out, walk the course, and have a great time right here at the Jimmy Austin OU Golf Club right here in Norman.
This hour brought to you by the Riverwind Casino and Hotel located just south of Norman off of Highway 9 and I-35. 219,000 square feet, over 2,700 electronic games, 30 table games, a poker room open 24/7, off-track betting, and a high-limits room. The restaurants include the Willows Buffet and Chips and Ale. For concert and comedy show reservations, give them a call, 1-877-787-9637.
Let's get back to Thunder Cover with newsok.com and the Oklahomans. Darnell Mayberry. Darnell, before we get into the NBA Finals, your thoughts on this situation in L.A. and Boston right now. We heard during the season about mid-season rumblings of this. Doc Rivers heading to L.A. with Kevin Garnett in exchange for DeAndre Jordan, possibly Bledsoe. Sounds like this thing has real legs at this point in time. Do you think that – and it seems like at this point, Darnell, at least to me, the fact that there's been rumblings and there's actual talks about it, we've already heard Doc come out and pretty much say he doesn't want to be back in Boston. I don't see Doc Rivers any way, shape, or form back in Boston as a coach.
Yeah, it seems like it's I don't want to say a done deal at this point, but it's on the verge of being completed. I think they're beyond the point of going back at this point, whether it happens and all of those parts and pieces go to the Clippers, or like you said, Doc just doesn't come back to Boston one way or another. I don't think they can take him back after some of the things that he said, and I don't think he wants to go back, knowing that they are on the verge of rebuilding. They're about to enter a rebuilding period. So that's going to be a coup for the Clippers, I think. I mean, getting Kevin Garnett, even though he's getting up there in age, I think he's still got a lot left in the tank. And he's not going to have to do nearly as much playing with a guy like Chris Paul. So I think that'd be a nice little coup for the Clippers.
No, it'd be outstanding. I think Eric Bledsoe is an outstanding young player as well. So wherever he ends up, I think someone's getting a great player in him. I guess there's just been so many different scenarios. There's also talks that Chris Paul and Dwight Howard have been discussing linking up, and there's talks of a trade from the Clippers to the Lakers with Eric Bledsoe and Blake Griffin to the Lakers for Dwight Howard. What have you heard about that?
Well, I can understand why the Clippers don't want to send Eric Bledsoe in that deal with Boston for Kevin Garnett and potentially Doc Rivers, because Eric Bledsoe, as you mentioned, is a fantastic young player. You can use him as another asset to get someone else, whether that's Dwight Howard or another piece. I think you have to hold on to Eric Bledsoe to try to maximize your roster and really try to get some more talent in there, because even with Chris Paul and Kevin Garnett, you're not going to be able to win a championship. So you need to surround those guys with some additional talent. I think Eric Bledsoe could be the link that gets you more talent on that team.
I guess that's the thing that most intrigues me. Let's say this happens. Let's say Kevin Garnett is a LA Clipper, Doc Rivers now the coach there. I think everyone would agree Doc Rivers, one of the top-tier coaches in this league, a far upgrade from Vinny Del Negro. How big of a player does this make the Clippers in the Western Conference moving into next season? I also was reading that oh goodness gracious, from Kansas. Why am I drawing a blank here? Paul Pierce being linked, could possibly, he's a free agent. He could opt out, and he could go right there to L.A. I mean, if this goes through and Garnett and Doc Rivers go there, is this a team that has a legitimate chance to win the Western Conference?
Well, I still think you have to put them behind the Spurs and the Thunder, no doubt about that. You have to first off see what they do in the draft and free agency. How will they fill out that team, as I mentioned? But you see these super teams form. I mean, we saw it with Miami. They didn't win it their first year. We saw it with the Lakers, with Dwight Howard and Steve Nash joining Kobe Bryant and Pau Gasol. Injuries happen. Chemistry issues take shape. So you just never know. And you would think that players at that end of their career, or at that stage of their career, at the end of their careers, Kevin Garnett, Paul Pierce, all they want to do right now is win. So they don't care who gets the accolades, who gets the credit and the headlines. They just want to win a championship again. So you would think from that sense it would work better than what we saw with Kobe Bryant and Dwight Howard. But, the last 2 years, or 2 of the last 3 years, Miami and L.A., when they formed their super teams, it didn't work out well. So I wouldn't just pencil them in to be in the NBA Finals next year if they pull this off.
Darnell, let's talk some NBA Finals. The Spurs go up 3-2 with a big win last night, 114-104 over the Heat. A couple unlikely heroes. I guess Danny Green, it's not so unlikely anymore, shooting 66% from the three-point range, and he's been consistent doing it throughout the series. He has a big game. Manu Ginobili comes in the starting position, has another outstanding game, or actually the first outstanding game he's played in a while, 24-10 from him. Talk about last night's game. The Spurs up 3-2 going back to Miami. Is this where you thought it'd be at this point in the series?
Yeah, and this is why I was sort of leaning towards Spurs in 6, and that was my pick before this. You guys know I said Spurs in 6. It's not Heat in 7, but I think the Spurs put themselves in a position. We all kind of figured they'd get 2 of the 3 at home. Miami would get 1, but this series has been so herky-jerky, and no consecutive wins, all these crazy runs that both teams have been on. It seems like whoever wins the third quarter in all of these games, or games 2 through 5, goes on to win the game. So that third quarter has been pivotal. But I think now you're seeing the big threes are starting to emerge for both teams. They're starting to play to their capabilities, and now it's just a matter of which role players can step up and really join them. And I think, we saw Danny Green do it last night. We saw Boris Diaw come in and have some tremendous impact. Even though he didn't fill up the stat sheet, he had some great plays, passing the ball, some defense on LeBron. So I think whichever complementary players step up and join the big three is going to take this game 5.
This is Thunder Cover with NewsOK.com and the Oklahomans, Darnell Mayberry. Darnell, what is it really we're seeing in this series about former superstars that people are saying are old and done and, they're washed up? challenge these guys and they step up. We saw D. Wade before Game 4. Haberstraw puts out an article on ESPN basically going into detail how the Miami Heat are a better team with Dwayne Wade on the bench. Well, he only goes for 32 points and just an unbelievable performance in that Game 4. You had from Stephen A. Smith to everyone I can think of say Manu Ginobili's done. He's done. He's injured. This is who he is at this point in time. And he looked like Manu Ginobili 7 years ago. I mean, he went 24-10, and it felt like more than that. And the timing of his shots and just his ability to run that offense last night, unbelievable. How is it these guys that at a certain time in their career, some of the better players in the NBA, but at times through this series seem like lackluster, how are they able to channel this and play so well at a high level on a given night?
Well, what was it that Rudy Tomjanovich said? Never underestimate the heart of a champion. You know, I think that's what we've come to do. And a player has one bad game, two bad games, even a string of bad games. That doesn't mean that they can't rock back and deliver one of those vintage performances. I mean, these guys are great players. They all have gotten here for a reason. And just because they can't do it consistently like they once did doesn't mean that they still can't get it done when they need to most. And I think that's kind of what you're saying out of Dwayne Wade and Manu Ginobili, and even Tim Duncan, who hadn't had a great series. And then last night he really came out and stepped up. So I think as soon as they realize that they really have to get it done, they go back in the time machine and try to do something to help their teams.
Darnell, how do you grade LeBron's performance up to this point through the first 5 games? A lot of people saying he's not aggressive enough. He's settling for outside shots. Defensively, he's having a hard time keeping up with Parker. How do you grade his performance so far?
Inconsistent. You know, he's been hit or miss, and when he's good, he's really good. He's great. But when he doesn't have it and he's off, then it's like, you know, he's not the best player on the planet, and he needs to be the best player on the planet to win this series at this point. So without 2 extraordinary games from LeBron James, the Heat might not win back-to-back titles. They need it from him at this point.
I totally agree with that, Darnell. It's like I'm watching that game last night. There was a stretch for about 6-7 minutes when LeBron took over second, third quarter. But outside of that, I'm watching that game, and for a lot of this series, as I watch the series, he's just a guy out there. But this is LeBron James. This is the guy that's world-renowned. Everyone knows it. There's no argument. The greatest player on the planet, and for whatever reason, in these NBA Finals, he has not shown up and played like it. And he did the entire season. He did up until this point through the playoffs. But right now, when it matters the most and when his team needs him to be the greatest player on the planet, point blank, he hasn't been that.
I think you got to give the Spurs a lot of credit for that. I mean, he's not just playing against, you know, a bunch of rum-dums. He's playing against one of the best defensive teams in the league, one of the best post defenders in Tim Duncan, and he's got some pretty good talent that he's going against in Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green, some smart players. So, you know, and I said before to you guys, that still is no excuse. LeBron's got to get it done, but you still have to give credit to San Antonio because it was one possession last night. He went in, missed the layup, and everyone just collapsed on him on the initial layup attempt and then on the second one. I mean, you saw how engaged the Spurs were in terms of limiting LeBron's looks at the basket, you know, the point-blank opportunity. So most teams don't do that. Most teams just let LeBron be LeBron, and I think the Spurs have really done a great job of cutting off what he does well. So you got to give those guys a lot of credit.
Darnell, you still think the Spurs are going to win this thing in 6? When we talk to you Wednesday, we're going to be talking about Tim Duncan's 5th ring?
You know, I think so. Again, if they can get another similar performance, not, you know, 5, 6 threes out of Danny Green, not 25 points, but if the role players can make shots, you know, Boris Diaw, Thiago Splitter can finish at the rim. He hadn't really been finishing in this series. Gary Neal, those guys, if they can just step up and provide some perimeter shooting to loosen up their Miami defense and handle the pressure, because the Heat are going to come out like it's Game 7, like they did against the Pacers. They're going to turn up the heat, and they're going to try to get turnovers and get out in transition and score easy buckets. So if the Spurs can handle that pressure and then make some perimeter shots, I think they're going to win Game 6.
If they win Game 6 and they are the world champions, I think Danny Green will be this year's MVP of the NBA Finals, a guy that was an undrafted guy, been cut 3 times. I got to ask you, you've been following the NBA for a while. You know it far better than me. Will this be the biggest surprise as an MVP in NBA Finals history?
In recent memory, I definitely say so because, Danny Green's a guy who got cut by this team, once or twice?
Yeah.
So, he wasn't even on the NBA radar for a while. I mean, until back in his Cleveland days. And then all of a sudden, he comes in and sets an NBA record for threes made. And he's basically carrying the offense to a certain degree for the Spurs. So, yeah, I mean, I think you'd have to say in recent memory, this has to be the most shocking MVP, potential NBA Finals MVP.
You want to hear a crazy stat that I heard? He's got more points in this series than he had in the 2010-2011 season combined.
Wow.
Jeez.
That's unbelievable.
How about that?
He's playing his butt off, man. I hope he gets it just for his sake and the story. I mean, as journalists, we root for the story, and it'd be a heck of a story if he got it, man. I'd like to see him get it.
No doubt about it. Well, we appreciate it, man. We'll talk Wednesday, and maybe we'll have a world champion, and maybe we're talking about a Game 7. As always, man, it's a pleasure. Thanks a lot.
Okay, guys.
Thunder cover with NewsOK.com, the Oklahoman's Darnell Mayberry. 2 segments left on this Monday. We got to get to Miss Utah.
We're going to hit that on the other side.
Let's hit. Okay, on the other side, we got some good stuff for you. Miss Utah, boy. Talk about digging a hole and burying yourself. She did that last night on a national stage. We're hanging out today at the Jimmy Austin OU Golf Club here for the 37th U.S. Women's Amateur Public Links Championship. It's underway going through Saturday. Get out here, check it out. It's The Rush, Sports Talk Network.